Episode 56 AL. Lawmakers have misread this rule as a declaration that carbon from burning wood can be ignored entirely in national and local laws for power plants and factories, as has been the case with Europe's renewable energy laws and emissions trading system. The reporting to the UN does not cure the fact that countries are encouraging power plants and factories to do the wrong thing. Burning wood for energy is accelerating with alarming speed in Europe, a 70% increase in Europe's tree cutting since 2015. And much of Europe's wood is coming from the US. If the world tried to pursue this strategy at even a small scale, the consequences would be dire for the world's forests. To replace just 2% of the world's fossil fuels with more wood would require doubling the commercial harvest of trees. The government of the Netherlands and several major political parties in Denmark have promised to phase out the use of wood, although details are still forthcoming. Now some in Congress are pushing the US to go down the wood-burning path. The good news is that the rider, attached to the spending bill, only lasts through September 2021, when the budget expires. President-elect Joe Biden and his new environmental team should take care not to allow the US to fall into this trap. Opinion in 2019 that wood burning is not carbon neutral. According to this article, wood burning is not carbon neutral, unless the wood would decompose anyway. Rosep View, this 2019 article from Minnesota, spends most of its time declaring, usually from a wood-burning industry perspective, that wood burning is carbon neutral, but with the caveats, 1, if the wood would decompose anyway, which is hard to prove in reality, and 2, if 100% of carbon at the stack of an industrial wood-burning plant is caught and captured at the stack. In ensuing years, it has been shown to residents against wood smoke emission particulates that carbon capture is much more expensive and ultimately futile, and that carbon should not be emitted in the first place, by choosing instead to use energy from solar and wind powering a revamped electrical grid attached efficiently to U.S. homes using heat pumps that operate at temperatures well below 0 Fahrenheit. Climate curious, is burning wood for heat carbon neutral? St. Paul, Minnesota. November 9, 2019, 7 a.m. Listen climate curious, is burning wood for heat carbon neutral? NPR News. Excerpts edited by Rosep for brevity and clarity on the subject of wood burning is not carbon neutral. How much carbon is released by burning firewood compared to letting the same tree decompose in the woods? Is heating with wood carbon neutral? Wood, unlike oil, coal, and natural gas, is not considered a fossil fuel. But burning firewood give off carbon. Burning that wood for heat is carbon neutral, as long as it's managed in a way that allows for new growth and new opportunities for carbon absorption. But it wouldn't be a good thing if all of us switched out our natural gas furnaces for wood furnaces. In urban areas, burning wood contributes other kinds of pollution that are harmful to people's health, especially the tiny particles in soot that can get into people's lungs. Eventually, wood is going to break down. It's going to create heat, some heat, through decomposition. So, the wood-burning industry spokesperson said, why not let it heat up our buildings by burning it in a plant that, unlike your home fireplace, has pollution controls to keep soot out of the air? Opinion in 2018 that wood burning is not carbon neutral. Rosep View. In this 2018 article, the dramatic statement is made yesterday, April 23, 2018. The Environmental Protection Agency announced that it would begin to count the burning of forest biomass, aka wood, as carbon neutral. The article goes on to say that some argue burning wood will only increase climate change, for 5 reasons. The 5 reasons are, A1, biomass is only sustainable on long-time scales. A2, forests need proper management to remain carbon neutral. A3, carbon emissions don't just come from burning. A4, the EPA has not yet completed its scientific analysis. A5, reliance on wood could spark widespread clear-cutting. Residents against wood smoke emission particulates thinks that this issue of whether wood burning is carbon neutral is simpler. B1. Whether biomass is economically sustainable or sustains forests by replanting does not affect the fact that carbon is emitted from wood burning at higher levels of carbon emission than its fellow solid, fossil, fuel coal burning, and at 450 times the emission of carbon than the cleanest, fossil, fuel natural gas burning. B2. Forests in 2022 and 2023 are burning in unprecedented wildfires, despite forestry management. B3. Carbon emissions from wood burning, properly measured at the stack or fence line by PM2.5 monitors, are a substantial portion of carbon emissions, and as mentioned before, surpass the emissions from coal or natural gas, fossil fuel, burning. 4. Scientists objected to this designation of wood burning as carbon neutral, and cited numerous studies to refute the political contention that wood burning is carbon neutral. B5. Increase in clear cutting has come true in 2023, but the concern of residents against wood smoke emission particulates is not primarily, as it is for forest advocates, on clear cutting, but on the immediate effect of residential wood burning on the health effects of PM2.5 emissions on near neighbors. In this way, ROSEP can cite reasons not to politically designate wood burning carbon neutral that are immediately understandable to the average resident. If politicians listened to the average resident, politicians would not go along with the foolhardy claim that wood burning is carbon neutral. The EPA declared that burning wood is carbon neutral. It's actually a lot more complicated. Here are 5 things to know about the controversial change. April 24, 2018. Excerpts edited by ROSEP for brevity and clarity on the subject. Wood burning is not carbon neutral. Yesterday, the Environmental Protection Agency announced that it would begin to count the burning of forest biomass, aka wood, as carbon neutral. The change will classify burning of wood pellets a renewable energy similar to solar or wind power. In his statement, EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt claims the change is a win for sustainable energy and the forestry industry. The problem is, as Chris Mooney and Dino Grandoni point out at the Washington Post, the carbon-neutral status of wood is fraught. Some argue that it will only exacerbate climate change. Here are 5 things to know about this controversial energy source. 1. Biomass is only sustainable on long timescales. While burning wood immediately releases carbon, it takes decades, or even a century, for a replacement tree to absorb the same amount of carbon. In the meantime, all that atmospheric carbon will continue to drive climate change. 2. Forests need proper management to remain carbon neutral. Even if a tree is planted for every tree converted to fuel pellets, trees regrown on plantations don't store the same carbon as natural forests. One recent study suggests it would take 40 to 100 years for a managed forest to capture the same amount of carbon as a natural forest. Since most plantation forests are harvested at 20-year intervals, they will never make it to the carbon-neutral point. Unless forests are guaranteed to regrow to carbon parity, production of wood pellets for fuel is likely to result in more CO2 in the atmosphere. 3. Carbon emissions don't just come from burning. If a significant amount of that soil carbon is added to the atmosphere, due to microbial activity in warmer soils, that will accelerate the global warming process. 4. The EPA has not yet completed its scientific analysis. The announcement comes before the EPA's Science Advisory Board has finished its deliberations. This is something that the EPA acknowledges in its press release, which states that the board's process has not yet resulted in a workable, applied approach. But according to its policy statement on the matter, the EPA claims that the change will boost rural economies and the timber industry as well as reduce pests and wildfires. Labeling biomass as carbon neutral has political element to it. Members of Congress have long pushed for this redefinition for economic reasons. 5. Reliance on wood could spark widespread clear cutting. The European Union is already relying on burning wood as a carbon-neutral energy source to meet Paris Accord emission goals.